So, Sean, I'm going to paraphrase your next question here because it is long.
TLDR.
Hard. Well, yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with how he's put it. I just want to make sure I do it in a succinct way. So, Chattanooga and Chattanooga FC have always been an innovative club and city. We have always been a city and a club of doing things first and becoming known for it. So we've discussed. He said you guys have discussed a little bit more. That was just part of his thing. So you guys discussed a little bit more before, but other teams in Next Pro have been having their talented players move up in their system because they have multiple teams. They have a first team and a second team. He wants to know, how is the club possibly preparing for this, and then how do we prepare for this, assuming they are, or maybe if they aren't, they should be, prepare for a culture of selling players to make the club financially viable for the foreseeable future and attract the best talent possible. He said we'd kind of have to break the mold to do this, as not many teams across the first and second and third divisions in this country get sold out of the country or in the country. It's just not super common. But Tormenta, as an example, he says sold a player to Burton Albion, and he wonders if we could implement something next year or in the future to be a selling club. And he mentions Mehdi as an example. Mehdi went to Omaha. These are his words. Mehdi went to Omaha. It's kind of a mutual parting of ways, and I'll provide a little bit of context on that in a second that I know. But why weren't we selling him to Omaha was his point. Mehdi's a good player, and so are we going to put together a future? Or do we think we're going to put together, or we should put together a future where CFC is a selling club to sell players on? So I'll mention a little Mehdi piece, then I'll let you guys kind of take that question. So basically, in the Mehdi situation, what I have learned is that at the end of the season, Mehdi and the team both agreed that if both of them found a suitable, we have a suitable replacement and you have a suitable place you want to go and everybody's happy, we'll mutually part ways. If everybody isn't happy, then we won't mutually part ways. But so it was very much a mutual parting of ways from both of those. They were both open to coming back and both open to going. And so it was not like Omaha came in and offered a bunch of money for Mehdi, or Mehdi was desperate to leave, or we were desperate to get rid of him. Nothing. It was just a mutual, hey, I think I'm open to moving on. I think we're open to replacing you. How could this work out? Can we find things that are as a win-win for everybody? And they mutually agreed to do that, and they did that. That is often not how things go. A mutual parting of ways often is not it's a see you later, get out of our house kind of thing, or I really want to leave and I don't want to be here type of thing in sports. But for this case, it really was a mutual, just a win-win for both sides going to Union Omaha I think that's just a little bit different than some of those situations. But yeah, I'll throw to you guys on the becoming a selling club. What do you guys think of that? What are your thoughts on? Are we going to become that? Do we need to become that? Yeah, floor is yours. I'll let Jim go first instead of Matthew, because Matthew I know is going to talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about the comings and goings, or the how really the system should work or is working in the lower divisions of the U.S. One thing is challenging is that if you have a bunch of 1-year deals, it's hard to sell players. I mean, you have the thing that allows you to sell them is that there is a contract there. There is some leverage, so if you've got, first of all, and I even think it's hard to sell on a 2-year contract. So I think you've got to be at 3 years so that a player plays, then they go into the year before their contract is in, and that's when you sell them. You sell them with a year left. We don't do that a lot. Or
we don't have a lot of 3-year deals.
No, I don't. Have we had any? Have we had any 3-year?
Two. Damien and now Darwin.
Okay.
And those are 2+1s.
Yeah. So the first thing is there's not an opportunity to sell a lot of players because they play and then they're out of contract. And so you need multiple year deals in order to be able to really sell players.
And that's riskier from a club point of view.
Yeah. And I think right now it's maybe it's I don't know how to say this. Is it that the clubs just hold the? I mean, in a world where players have more leverage, they can get longer contracts. Here, I don't think the players have that ability really to demand that. Clubs don't really need to do it. And
also, I agree with that. And also, if you were 23, or I'm sorry, if you're 19 in the United States and you play soccer, there's not a lot of transfer fee money out there for you. So
Yeah.
being locked down for 3 years to a club is not in your best
doesn't make any
interest.
sense.
You want to sign 1 year or 1 year with a club option that you like. Those are the kind of deals you want to sign because you want to have the flexibility to move, because MLS isn't paying into USL Championship, $50,000, $100,000 transfer fees very often. And so I'm using USL Championship as an example because that's 2 to 1, and MLS is where the money is, much more so, even more magnified on our level, which is Division 3 into Division 2. Like, you just don't see large sums of money. So I think your point about contracts is exactly right. And I agree, the clubs hold more power there, but even if you take away the power dynamic, the clubs don't want to be locked into players, and the players don't want to be locked down either. Neither one wants to be locked in because there's not the money out there to get out of that or to move up. So players want to be able to get out of their contract and then sign with a USL Championship team, with an MLS team, go abroad without having that transfer fee hung around their neck.
You are just now seeing championship teams being more willing to put players on 2+1s, and I'm sure you can find an example of a 3-year deal somewhere. You're just now seeing that. And that's largely based on a group of players that are never making it to MLS. That MLS is never coming in on. But they're extremely good players, like great championship players that love the city they're playing in, love the team they're playing for, and that team loves them. And so they're willing to go ahead and lock a player down, because these are more sure commodities at that point. We are just now seeing that happen the last couple of years. We are also now seeing at the championship level again, there is a transfer market out there. It is by no means robust, and the money is mostly nothing. Yeah. But we are seeing if there's a coaching change, a team like a Tampa Bay Rowdies is willing to go find a player that's playing, somewhere else in the league and pay 10 grand or even maybe 20 grand for that player. They've got the budget to do that. Their playing budget's probably $1.7 million. 20 grand is pretty much nothing in the grand scheme of things. What we're not seeing is unless you have an Elijah Winder, who LA Galaxy bought off of Louisville, a 21-year-old from the Louisville Academy, brother of Josh Winder, who was bought by Benfica from Louisville. Unless you have that kind of player, MLS isn't buying you, right? So, the Winder brothers making reported $1.4 million for Louisville, is so much the outlier that the transfer market just isn't there. There has not been a cash transfer market basically at all, even at the MLS level, except for money going overseas, because MLS teams transferring players from one another would use the allocation money system. God. That is just now, the ability for that has just now changed. The cash, stop it. The cash,
Tam.
The cash transfer market is new to MLS this winter offseason. And you've already seen moves take place with actual cold hard cash. Lucho Acosta to Dallas from Cincinnati. The cascading effect of Evander from Portland to Cincinnati for $12 million, which allowed Portland then bring a player in from overseas. Dejan Joveljic moved from LA Galaxy to Sporting Kansas City for $4 million. All of those were straight cash, homie. Straight cash. And so
which has never been an option before, which is insane.
It's never been an option before. So now you will see, I think, a little bit more cash spent around the MLS level. It's mostly going to be for the big time players that need to move, though, that you can't really move with allocation money because there just isn't enough allocation money. What the system really needs for a domestic cash market is for the acquisition cost of a player to be removed from the salary cap at the MLS level. That's what it really needs. That will allow money to flow downstream. Now, at the minimum, it should be that the cash transfer, the acquisition fee should not count against the cap if it comes from within the MLS system, in my belief. If you want to differentiate MLS Next Pro for independent teams versus another system that's out there for however long, that's how you do it. Because then you can incentivize money moving downstream. You can incentivize clubs like CFC to develop players, to spend money on an academy, to develop players, to try to sell them on. To Sean's question about Tormenta specifically, Tormenta makes no fucking money on their soccer team. Nobody goes to those games. They have no sponsorship. They're in Statesboro. Nobody fucking goes to those games. They don't make any money. They make their money on their youth academy though.
Yep.
They've got one of the largest youth academies out there. Thousands and thousands of families, whatever it is, like paying money to play in the Tormenta Youth Academy. That's how they survive as a club.
And they also run a pretty good pro team as far as scouting and signing. They signed 3 CFC players. So.
And they're also willing,
smart.
And they run like their USL League 2 team. Like they're willing to promote and try to promote academy players up, whether they're at college or whatever it is. Like they try to vertically do that. Akoto is a good example, but that's an English guy. That's an English guy going back home where it's worth it. Because there's no now with Brexit there are new rules on registration of foreign players into England, especially the lower divisions of England. So it is worth it if Burton or whoever it was, Burton Hove Albion, it's worth it to them to pay a little bit of money that they would ordinarily wouldn't pay for an English player that they don't have to count against their foreign cap because they're in League One or whatever the hell they're in over there. So like that's kind of a unique circumstance. It's certainly not the norm. We are a long way from like a true transfer market in this country. We're a long way away from that, which is good and positive because we as CFC need that time. You just saw the announcement of adding a U15, U13, whatever it is, team. Originally, we were going to have 2 teams in MLS Next, like the elite youth tier.
13, 14, 15, right?
Sure. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think that
it was
right.
going to
for
be
the boys. I think it's 13, 14, 15.
It was going to be like just 2 teams to start out. We've increased that now to 3.
Yeah.
And the further we can get in developing the academy, especially the elite level of the academy, the further along we can get, the better off we're going to be in terms of producing players that may play for CFC, the first team, one day, may just go to college, may stop playing soccer entirely, but the higher the level will raise overall, the higher level of a player that Chattanooga, the city, will produce. And you have to start somewhere. And there's another equation to that, which is figuring out long-term training facilities, fields, etc., which they're working on. They're constantly looking for field space. They're constantly looking for turf options in the event of rain.
Well, and Sebastian talked about too the additional A licenses they have,
the additional coaching licenses.
They're really like the academy is being built out now.
And like yes, the academy has existed for 12, 14 years, whatever it is now, but to really go to the level that we need to, the academy is in essence a year, 2 years old. To try to produce elite players, to try to produce players that have resale value, that are legitimate commodities. And that's going to be a balance that we have to remember to take going forward, is that yes, players are commodities, but they're also still people. And often
Dad.
they're kids. And and we have to remember that as we do this thing. Otherwise, we're going to lose. I'm not saying we're going down this road, but the potential to lose the magic of what makes CFC, what makes Chattanooga itself special, is there when you start thinking about players as commodities.
Totally. So to sum it up, you think that yes, we do need to go down that road, but it's just far in the future.
Everyone needs to go down that road. Everyone needs to go down that road. And it's been in my end of season, like my New Year's resolutions. Like, I want us to participate in the transfer market. You know, we participated twice, buying Jude and
Callum.
and Callum, the acquisition of Callum. So, like, can we now, and whether it's, you know, like, obviously, like, Jude was a parting of ways, you know, is there another opportunity? Like, there's still a foreign spot left with this team. Do we sell that foreign spot? Do we pocket that spot? Do we bring in a foreign player as one of the last couple players on the roster? Do we wait until the summer for some sort of, maybe it's an acquisition, maybe it's a free agent signing, but like, do we try to find an upside play and make a bet? There's a lot of possibilities out there. But one of the things that's going to be really important for teams to want to buy from us is they have to trust us. And this is our second year in MLS Next Pro. And it's really great that they're 16 years before that, or whatever it is.
I thought you were saying for MLS Next Pro. For us, yes.
Yeah. It's really great that we have that history, and that's an important part of our journey as a club and as a fan base and a community. But as far as like the soccer ecosystem, like the business of soccer goes, we're essentially a second-year club. The academy is in its second year, right? We don't even have the elite level yet. That starts, you know, in August or whatever. And we are in our second year of MLS Next Pro. Like, the NISA years almost don't matter. The amateur years almost don't matter as far as like the business, soccer business, grown-up shit. So it's going to take time for us to really get there. And that's okay. We have some time, but we just have to be putting in the work now, building out the academy, looking to improve facilities and structure. Like, it's just like classroom stuff, right? Children in a classroom need to be in a stable environment with no distractions. Like, that helps them learn best. It's the same with soccer players. Like, if you're constantly on 7 different fields, you know, your environment's changing. Like, you're not, like, it's not as good for development as being in the same place every day, putting the work in with fewer distractions.
Well, I would say it's the same as what a club needs. I mean, we haven't had the ability to even know if we were playing the following weekend for
several years.
You know, for several years.
For the NISA, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the club has to have that sense of security
and for the first time, moving to MLS Next Pro for the first time, like, that is the security. Like,
yeah.
We have.
Well, unless you're playing in Fort Lauderdale.
No, but like, we know that the league isn't going away. Like, we didn't have that security until we moved.
True. Yeah, that's true. I'm just mad at Fort Lauderdale for moving the game by a day.
Yeah, well, that's whatever.
Yeah, so to sum all that up, I agree. And Jim, if you want to add anything, you're welcome to. But I think in the medium term, we absolutely do need to become a selling club. Every team in the world is some version of a selling club, except for like 6 clubs in the world.
Correct.
So like,
yeah.
And transfer fees, as they become more relevant and more possible, have to become a part of our business model. I also agree with Matthew that right now, unfortunately, the reality is if you take a bunch of swings on guys trying to make, you know, money, you're not going to make much money. It's very much gambling because the transfer fees are not out there right now for us. They could be and they will be in the future. And like, we need to try to win and also like develop young players for winning and for helping them step up. And then if we can make some money in those periods, great. And then as time goes on and the opportunities to make money hopefully develop through unfortunately, MLS dominates all of American soccer. So as MLS orients itself, it seems, to paying some more transfer fees, and those become bigger options for us, yes, we should focus a little bit more on that, but not at the detriment of winning and not at the detriment of, like, if you pay $50,000 for 5 different players, you need one of them to come out $50 per, $50,000 per, and then you need to come out with at least 250 on one of them to pay it off, as an example. In world soccer, those are tiny transfer fees. In American soccer, those are very
huge.
Those are huge transfer fees.
Yeah.
So like, for us to participate in the global market right now and on big bets that make us money, quote unquote, is just rare. We're going to make little chunks of, like, if you sell a player for $25,000 in the American soccer market, that's a lot of money. Most guys are making more than that in salary a year. So what are you adding to your bottom line by adding $25,000 to your bottom line? you're adding something. Don't get me wrong. It is something, and we need to be able to participate at some point. But like, it's just less of a revenue generator than you think it is. And we need a history, as Matt pointed out, of moving guys on. So we need an Omzion or a Darwin or somebody this year, as an example, to explode and move on to an MLS team and get a real MLS deal. That would help our case there. If Medi goes at Union Omaha and scores 15 goals in League One, every League One team is going to look at us a little differently when looking for players, and maybe we'll start to get some offers, some of those smaller offers. But we have to have a history of that in addition to there having to be a larger global market.
But
there are three
again,
teams.
that only matters if they're multi-year deals. I mean,
Exactly, and why would we put guys on multi-year deals until the money's there?
Yeah,
but we have some
so
guys.
It's a chicken and egg. I mean,
you can sell guys if you can sell guys for those small amounts when you have an option year on them. Like,
sure, and sure.
It's just the amounts, the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 transfer fees are just not going to substantially change the bottom line of a club that's got a several $1 million budget overall. Mm-hmm. But like, are they helpful? Yes. Should we be excited about it when the first one happens and we make 40 grand or whatever?
It's more of a novelty.
It's more of a novelty
than anything else.
But as time goes on, we do need to continue to build a pipeline of young players, whether they're at the academy or young guys that play here, that can, so that when it becomes a real option, we have the option to sell those guys on. And in the meantime, let's have the type of players that other teams want to buy so that we can win.
Two things. One, there are 3 lower division teams in the country that are trusted by the global soccer market to buy players from. Louisville. Charleston, Orange County. That's it. Louisville's 10 years old now. They've been a professional team for 10 years. That academy is starting to pay dividends, and it's literally in one family. Charleston has been around for forever, like 30 years now. They've been a professional team for an extremely long period of time, and they have both a club culture and now like a technical staff in Pyramid that are trusted to find players, to make them good, to sell them on. You've seen that now with Fidel Barajas. You've seen that with Nick Marikanic. You saw it with maybe those are the only 2 so far. But they've brought in now other players, like other youth players specifically, that are teams are trusting because they know they're going to get on the field in first team matches sooner. And they've seen that these players, like, an offer comes in from RSL for Fidel Barajas. Yep, no problem. You're gone. Like, not a crazy fee, so it's good for the MLS club. A nice sell-on percentage, so that when RSL flips you for $4 million to Chivas right afterwards, now you've got a bigger percentage coming back to you.
And by the way, those
Good
percentages...
for the player. By the way, that player's back at DC United on loan now.
I was going to say, those percentages didn't exist a few years ago. They weren't happening.
Right.
And so like the market's just changing the way things are happening.
I think there's the idea that we're probably 2, 3, maybe more than that years away from being what somebody might call a selling club, but so is everybody else.
We're 5 or 6 years away. Legitimately,
the most advanced clubs in this market in the U.S., at least the lower leagues, have been doing this with money about 2 years, 3 years.
Exactly.
I mean, you could go a little bit further for Orange County. Which intentionally developed relationships overseas with Rangers, Feyenoord, maybe some others, and were willing to get guys out the door quickly for less money, so that they could set up a Kobe Henry to somewhere in France. They could set up Milan Ilioski into Holland, like for and that one was some real money. But like they've done a lot of stuff already. Like they've been like cultivating their academy for a very long time. And not just like the players that are around them, but then players that need to leave and go there so that then they can set up their move. Like those are very, very intentional things that we are a stretch away from. So in the meantime, we have to win. That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
We need to really like focus, and this is a big priority for Sebastian. Like we need to focus to build out the academy, to build out the structure in terms of getting good coaches, getting quality competition, building out those teams, changing the way that a Chattanooga player is, like making a Chattanooga player and I mean like a player like from the club, but also from the city, to be known and relevant coming out. That will take time. And at the club's perspective, like we're going to need to really continue to focus on facilities, so that the training environment can be the best possible environment to learn and grow. And we know that the club has a focus on facilities because we see it with HQ going up. If you drive by 27 every day, like that building is fundamentally different every single day.
If you're wondering which one it is, just look at where the giant CFC flag is on the side.
So
Yeah.
Well, I guess what we are in the grand Ponzi scheme of American soccer.
Hell yeah.
We are still getting in on a relatively low floor. I mean,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's yeah.
And if you believe like I do that everything is going towards MLS one day, the MLS system one day, we are very early in
The buyout.
The merger.
The buyout.
We're very early in on that. I think you heard. I don't know if it was on this podcast or not, but like MLS Next Pro is the most scouted league in North America now. But teams are watching MLS, great, but they're looking for all of the young
they're
players.
just above Nisa in that. In that,
True. Nice is the second most, and it's very close.
yeah, very close.
like people,
That feels like a Nice stat.
clubs around the world are looking towards MLS Next Pro for their next acquisition, because it'll come cheaper for them compared to other places in Europe.
And if you watch,
and it's a market that's just growing exponentially.
I don't remember if you said, I think you said this on the podcast, but maybe you said it right before we started recording. It looks to us, it's week one. We are drawing massive conclusions because we're podcasters and it's fun.
We're winning the league.
We are winning the league. But also, we're drawing massive conclusions, but it looks like the league has leveled up once again. And if the league has leveled up once again, if the talent is a step better than last year, which last year was a big step forward from the year before that, and we weren't watching the year before that, but it seems like it was a big step forward from the year before that. Every year MLS Next Pro is stepping up. It's going to continue to get more and more scouted and more opportunities for us to hopefully get talented guys in here from the league.
And that benefits all of American soccer. That's going to benefit MLS, obviously. That's going to benefit us in Next Pro. That's going to benefit other three-letter leagues.
And the one thing that'll really help is if we get replays on Apple TV.